everybody, it's Dave with davidspassage.com, and I'm coming to you with another video today. And today I wanted to show you a little video about something I was reminded of in terms of its usefulness while camping. And if you've seen my videos before, if you've seen some of my other video, another video I did on my mess kit, this is just a basic, your generic $6 Walmart mess kit. And I really like this mess kit. I mean, it's cheap, it is aluminum, but for the price you really can't go wrong. And I was backpacking with some students a few weeks ago in the Allegheny National Forest, and I was reminded about something that I just kind of wanted to pass along. I talked about my mess kit in another video. I also talked about this stove in another video and showed you how you can make that. This is an alcohol stove, and these work really well, but this isn't my go-to stove in the woods. And in fact, this is my backup stove. I use this in situations where it's really cold and I really need a sure way to get fire. I also use it in situations where if I'm in the woods and it's been raining a lot, I can't find dry wood, this is what that's for. But mostly, I like to cook by fire just because that's what's there. You're not wasting, resources that you may need later for doing that. And so I was backpacking with some students a couple weeks ago in the Allegheny National Forest, and I was reminded of the usefulness of what's called a Dakota Fire Hole. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, show you how it's made, and I'm going to do a little burn test and just show you how fast and efficient this thing is at boiling 2 cups of water. I think you'd be pretty surprised at how awesome this thing is, so stick around. Okay, I'm actually here with my buddy Alec, neighborhood kid. There he is. Say hi, Alec.
Hi.
It's my neighborhood buddy. Anyways, so basically with a Dakota Fire Hole, what I did was I dug 2 holes, okay? One that I'm going to cook with, and one that I'm going to use as a vent hole. And when you dig this thing, in the second hole, this is my first hole, this is the hole I'm going to use primarily for cooking. The second hole I dig it as deep as the other hole, and I dig it out at the bottom so that the holes meet. And in the end, you get sort of a U shape in the pit. One side you fill with wood, one side you leave open. And what I really like about a Dakota Fire Hole, one of the things is just it takes a lot less wood to get the job done. It burns a lot more efficiently, and it's extremely low impact. If you do it right, when all is said and done, nobody knows that you were there. So again, basically just dig a hole down, depending on how long you need it to cook. You also want to find sticks that are as deep as your hole. You can see those go a little bit in the hole. I'll show you why I did that and talk about that in a little bit. But you want your sticks to kind of be level with the ground, so you want to process the sticks down to be about the size that you need. And basically, here's why I make them. This is why I really prefer this method, in the woods as opposed to other methods. First of all, it cooks hotter. When I light this thing on fire, once it gets started, what happens is all of the air inside of the hole gets superheated by the heat that's coming off the flames. As that's happening, all of that air, because it's hotter, it's rising. So what it actually does is it forms a natural suction that sucks oxygen in from this hole, goes to the bottom of this hole. That air is heated and shoots up. When I fire it up and you listen to it, you notice it makes a different sound than just a normal campfire. And so what happens is the heat is actually concentrated because it has this constant supply of oxygen coming up through the bottom. Not only that, but the radiation from the heat is also constant. It's trying to escape. It escapes straight up. So it makes it a very efficient fire. And Alec, while I'm talking, you want to put those little pencil sticks in between those sticks. Just kind of shove them in there. Anyways, another thing that's really awesome about it is it cooks longer with the amount of wood that you have. Because it's contained inside of the hole, what happens is it uses the wood more efficiently. So it cooks longer. It takes less wood, as you saw. It doesn't take much wood to do what you need to it. It's semi-stealthy. This is another really cool benefit. When we light this thing on fire, once it burns down a little bit, what actually happens is the flames are underneath the ground. So if people are looking from a distance, they really can't see it as well as an open campfire. It's also low impact on the environment. That's a really important thing, because when you're in the woods, you don't want to just leave a campfire open. A lot of people say you need to bury your fire in order to put it out, douse it with water and that sort of thing. With this, it's real easy. I keep the dirt right here, and when I'm done, I just push it in. In fact, I'm going to push the sod back on top too. You won't notice it was even there. So it's really low impact on the environment. You don't know it's there. Semi-stealthy. It's easier to put out because you just shove the dirt in and it's done. And you know, I've heard it, right? You know, I've read some blogs. Yeah, I won't even need it. Just push the other ones in there. I've read some things online that even say that it smokes less. I don't know how true that is, whether it smokes less or not. I just know that I really like this for cooking. So what I'm going to do now, Alex put all these sticks in here, is I'm going to take it, I'm going to light it on fire, let it burn a little bit, and then I'm going to start the timer on my iPad here and just show you how long it takes to burn to boil 2 cups of water with it. Again, extremely efficient way to cook. When I use this thing, well, I use it when I want to leave less of a trace in the woods. You know, I don't want to make a new fire pit every time I go in the woods to camp, because it's just ugly to have a camp, you know, a forest littered with camp rings. You know, when you don't have a lot of wood to work with, as you saw, it took a lot less wood. I can find that much wood, even in wet conditions. Chances are I'm going to be able to find that much wood, even if I have to process, you know, if I have to baton wood down to that size. So if you don't have a lot of wood to work with, it's great. When you want to cook with a pot easily, my pot will fit right on there. I can even put a semi-wet stick or a thick stick across to kind of balance it over the flames, and that's pretty easy. And if you need to cook away from camp, this is another thing. When we were camping in Allegheny, there was a fire ring at the lean-to we were going to stay at, but it was bear country, and it didn't make sense to cook your food where you're going to sleep. You want to cook away from camp. So this gave us an easy way to cook away from camp efficiently and to leave no trace of us having been there. So I'm going to light this thing up, and we're going to give it a little boil test here, so stick around. To use this fire, you know, it's great for cooking and all that stuff, but there are a few instances when you don't want to use this fire, and the first one is, you know, when you are wanting radiated heat for warmth. You know, if you're in a hypothermia situation, obviously, or if you're in a situation where it's cold at night, this is not the best fire to get your group warm. Because a lot of the radiation is actually under the ground, in a sense, the radiated heat. It's coming straight up as opposed to spreading out like a normal fire would. So when people need to get warm, that's not the fire that you want to use. Also, I would not use it for a signal fire if you're in an emergency situation. Again, because it's stealthy, it's underground. Your flames and your embers are underground. It's not going to produce any light, and it's not going to produce as much smoke to signal with. We're going to light this thing up now and show you what it's all about. Give it a little boil test, so stick around. Because I'm going to use one of these to start my fire with. This is a cotton ball soaked in Vaseline. You can watch another video I made on how to make these. And these are just a great way to keep them in a little Mentos container. I can start about 20 fires. You could probably cram about 20 cotton balls in that. And I'm just going to light it with my ferro rod. Real easy here. There we go. Get some of these sticks on fire here.
Why does it spark?
Because it's catching on fire.
Where do you buy those ferro rods at?
I got this one at Dunham's.
Do you get them at Walmart?
No, not usually. You have to get them at a sporting goods store or a camping store. Gander Mountain sells them.
Walmart sells camping gear.
You don't sell this kind of camping gear usually. Okay, so now that it's going a bit here, I'm going to put 2 cups of water in this guy. I'm going to start the timer and just give you a little indication of how long it takes to boil. Here, so, I got my stainless steel water bottle here. One of the neat things about these mess kits is I've also figured out that 2 cups is almost exactly where those rivets are at. So I'll fill it right up to those rivets, right there. And put the lid on. And Alec, you see my iPad right there? There's a little triangle on it. Would you push it? You see it on the bottom? We'll start the timer. Go for it. All right. Just let that sit there. I'll put my pot right on there and let it boil. One thing I will say about this setup, if you set your pot on like this, you have to be really careful, because as the wood burns down, that wood's going to shift, and your pot can actually tip over and go into the fire, and therefore put your fire out with whatever liquid's in there. So just kind of be mindful of what where the sticks are at, how they're cooking there. You don't want the stick to collapse on you and then spill the water inside your fire, put the fire out. Sometimes what you can do too is take a stick that's that's wet or whatever, stick it across the fire, and balance it between, put one side of your pot on the rim, the other side on the stick here, and to just make sure that it, it stays in an area where it's going to stay safe. It's not going to fall in and tip the water out and put your fire out subsequently. There it is. 5 minutes and let's say 15 seconds. There it is. About 5 minutes, 15 seconds, and you're at a boil. Even with those alcohol stoves, it takes about I think about 5 or 6 minutes to start those and to get a good boil in it. So 5 minutes, 15 seconds it took to boil that and get a good rolling boil on that. That would have burned a lot longer, but I put the fire out with the water there, and now, to really just to be done with it, let's kind of shove the ashes in here. You want to put the fire out. Take out one of these guys. To put out the fire now, even to get rid of the smoke. Just pile it with dirt. And it's out. Really quick, easy way to put out fire, and I just really appreciate this method of cooking in the woods. In fact, I prefer it. That's my first go-to. It takes a lot less wood. Again, you're using a lot less energy collecting wood. I would say you got to be kind of careful where you put the fire, just because if you're in a root system, it makes it harder to dig. But otherwise, that's a Dakota Fire Hole, basic Dakota Fire Hole. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your views, and I really appreciate your likes on Facebook and your follows on Twitter and all that good stuff. If you've used these and you've been successful or have a story to share about how the Dakota Fire Hole has been useful to you, please leave a comment. I love to hear from you guys in terms of tips and ways that I can even learn. I just love being outdoors and learning all that I can about all the cool things you can do outside. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time with another video. Take care.